So you wanna be a picture book writer, then you gotta write picture books. And you're gonna need a bucket load of bright ideas for titles, plots, and hooks. If you're partial to prose or you're raring to rhyme, then repeat after me, it's a challenge, but I'm gonna tackle each story 1 month at a time with 12 by 12.
This is Lights at Night, written by me, Tasha Hilderman, illustrated by Maggie Zhang. It is dark, and then street lamps turn on. 1, 2, 3. Red light, green light, yellow light, red. It starts to rain. Slow at first, and then faster. A spring storm. Puddles shimmer and glisten on the street. Lightning cracks and electrifies the night. We spot the beam of our porch light and get home just in time. The power goes out. Darkness inside, darkness outside. We fall asleep to the sound of the rain. But the nights are alive with buzzing and humming. Spring is here. Flower heads and furry faces poke out of the dark earth. New babies arrive with the stars. Soon it is summer, and our campfire crackles yellow, orange, and red, sending sparks like fireflies rising in the hot and heavy summer air. We stay up late and wait to see the fireworks explode. We watch bursts of color pop and sparkle above us, then slowly fall and fade. The lake reflects their magic like a second sky. Soon, wheat dances between light and shadow as the moon chases the sun away earlier and earlier. Combines dot the landscape, working hard to beat the coming frost. Stop! The sign on the side of our school bus flashes in the early dark. We hop off into the bite of the autumn wind and hurry towards the warm welcome of home. When the weekend comes, we all head to town. We shiver and cheer and snuggle close on the bench under the towering lights. The game begins. We hold our breath. Touchdown! Originally, this book was called Nightlights, and we had to change it because they worried about searches on Amazon, people searching for nightlights and only finding nightlights. So there was a lot of discussion about what it should be called. In a farming community, getting into the fall, combines they look like big monster dinosaurs. And so I had this vision of the combines with their great big lights. And then my publisher was like, well, city kids might not know what combines are. Maybe we should say tractors. And I was like, no, combines are very important, and the combine lights are very important. So this page has the combines, and we still have the combines in the text. We don't see their crazy monster lights, because lots of times they'll be like side by side. It's very alien-like, because we're still kind of at that dusk time. That was another challenge with the story, that we wanted it to take place at different times of dusk and darkness, and really dark nights and not so quite dark nights, dark times. So some of it in my mind was really with black sky, so I had to kind of adapt to that, but we played around a lot with this page is a little bit more orange and yellow. When she was working on it, it was quite pink and orange like this one, and then they felt like the colors were maybe a bit too similar, so then this one we backed off and made it more of an orangey kind of a dusk. But that was really just a fun way to see all the different ways that light got represented.
I love that you fought for the word combines because it's even if you don't know what the word means, that's what the beauty of picture books is, that you can surmise very quickly what they are from the illustration, you know? And and even something as small as that, I think, is representation of
Yes.
people who live in a particular place, in a particular way of life, so all those kids who do know what combines are and live with them and have that experience get to really see that reflected. And it just occurred to me as you were saying that, when we talk about representation, which I know, your book last year, your debut picture book, of course, is all about representation. But we often think of it as like the macro thing, of our identities and so on. But even small things like this are also representation. And I
Yes.
noticed on the page with the holiday lights that there's Christmas and there's Kwanzaa and
Yes.
there's Hanukkah, right? And so even though it doesn't say all of those holidays and you can see that there's, you know, a woman opening the door with a hijab, and that too is representation. It just is, to me, it's so wonderful to see that it's coming not just in terms of subject matter or topics or whatever, but across the board, right?
Definitely.
Honestly, even cat people are represented here.
Yeah.
Did you work with the illustrator on that? Like if did the illustrator know what a combine was and how to
She
put in there?
Right. I didn't talk with Maggie specifically, or we didn't discuss that specifically. Maggie's from Toronto, so she's an urban setting too. But somehow I sent lots of pictures. Like when I was really fighting for it, my editor just got loaded with combine pictures, and like especially too with the, like beating the frost. Once we are questionable about when we're gonna get snow. So it is often for us, we'll have snow even before Halloween. Sometimes the first snow comes in September. So there is that like rush that those guys go out at night or very, very early in the morning. And sometimes teams of them, and you know, your neighbors bring over combines, and they're all like, it is a very, and if you're driving anywhere on the edges of town, you might be behind a combine on its way somewhere. So yeah, it was really important for it to be there. And so Maggie got a lot of inspirational photos from me.
Right, right. So another question on the illustration. There are actually a lot of people who says it sounds like you work closely with your illustrator. Is that the case? And if so, what was that like? And were there any moments where you didn't agree on an illustration? You talked about the orange versus pink spreads, and that was another thing. Huge football fan.
Yes. Perfect.
And so fall nights, and so that was, did you work with the illustrator, and if so,
Right.
what was that like?
So both of my books were published through Tundra, which is Canada's oldest children's book publisher. It's a division of Penguin Random House. So when we were going to do Lights at Night, I got a bit of a choice in terms of illustrator. We looked at a couple of options, and then we of course had to see which ones would be available. And we looked at who really could represent light in the best way, like looking at examples if they could illustrate that well. And we talked a lot about the different word, like the editing that had to go into this book, where sometimes we would say glow or the warm halo, like all the different versions of kinds of light that we could have. So I didn't talk to Maggie at all specifically. It was all through our editor. There was some parts of the text that we had to alter because it wasn't flowing well enough with the way the illustrations were going. So it was, a lot of it was either her idea or my editor's idea to do like the Polaroid pictures that kind of would show parts of the scene. I'll just hold that up. Like that was kind of their decision. I didn't have any specific notes about that, to have those Polaroid shots capturing things. The page where there were certain elements where I would say, you know, the part that talks about the icy halo around the moon was illustrated without an icy halo. So then we had to go back and there would be little notes, and I'd be like, should it have a bit of a halo? Like we're saying it has a halo. The part with a snowman tips his hat, a red nose guides the sleigh. On this page, there's a picture of Rudolph, but there's not a sleigh. And so then I would be like, well, should we have the sleigh? And then the editor was like, well, it doesn't have to be exactly everything that's written. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Some parts I did have to ask to have the light amped up, that it just felt like it's about light. So where are we seeing the light there? And then the page I keep talking about that we had to add text to was the transition for when the foxes are here. We worked a lot on this page about how to illustrate this so it didn't feel like the animals were in imminent danger and it wasn't scary to the children. So we talked about having the viewpoint come from kind of the back of the car through the rear window, through the front window. How would we do that there? How are we going to capture the darkness, but also the animals? And so this section here Twilight, Starlight, Moonlight, Darkness wasn't in the original manuscript and got added just as a transition. So it didn't leap too quickly from street lamps to the animals, because they were kind of leaving town. And there was elements in the original manuscript that had more city things like vacancy and sail and those kinds of lights, or like the lights of a train, the glowing tail lights, like when you can see those kind of ribbons of red in front of you. And so some of that got cut out to make room for the rest of it. But it was a bit collaborative towards the end to make sure that the story flowed both through the words and through the images.
Do it together, so never you fear. It's a handy little way to help you kick into gear. You're amazing, exciting. Look out, 'cause you're writing 12 by 12.
12 manuscripts.
12 by 12.
12 picture books.
12 by 12 this